Hi, room 26 kiddos. Okay, I'm in the therapy room and I'm going to keep reading The One and Only Ivan. We're going to be on the fifth section. This is the fifth section of The One and Only Ivan. You're already on page 68. Look at you guys. Look, y'all are already reading a lot of a really big book. I'm impressed. It's a really good book. Now remember, normally when you see me at school, what do I have on? A mask to protect me from coughing and sneezing. But when I read to y'all on the computer, I'm going to read to y'all in the therapy room so I can be by myself. If I'm by myself, I can take my mask off. Okay? So our mask is off and we're going to start reading. Last we left off, Ivan was talking to Stella because he was having trouble sleeping, and Stella was telling him stories. And Stella told him the story of Jumbo, the great ape, where the boy fell into the cage at the zoo and Jumbo didn't hurt him. And Ivan was really surprised because a lot of people thought that the ape would hurt him, the gorilla would hurt him. But no, he knows that gorillas don't want to hurt other people. And the gorilla, Jumbo, knew that the boy was hurt. So of course he wouldn't hurt him. So now, and they're also waiting for possibly another animal at the Big Top Mall. Bob, the dog, thinks it's going to be a cat. I don't think he's real jazzed about a cat. But Stella thinks it's going to be a baby elephant. Let's find out. The next chapter, Arrival. The new neighbor arrives at the 4 o'clock show. When the truck comes lumbering towards the parking lot, Bob scampers over to inform us. Bob always knows what's happening. He's a useful friend to have, especially when you can't leave your domain. With a groan, Mac lifts the sliding metal door near the food court, the place where deliveries are made. A big white truck is backing up to the door, belching smoke. When the driver opens the truck, I know that Stella is right. A baby elephant is inside. I see her trunk poking out from the blackness. I'm glad for Stella. When I glance at her, I see she is not glad at all. Stand back, everyone, Mac yells. We've got a new arrival. This is Ruby, folks. 600 pounds of fun to save our sorry butts. This gal is going to sell some tickets. Mac and 2 men climb into the back cave of the truck. We hear noise, scuffling, a word Mac uses when he's angry. Ruby makes a noise too, like one of the little trumpets they sell at the gift store. Move, Mac says. But still there is no Ruby. Move, he says again. We haven't got all day. Inside her domain, Stella paces as much as she's able. 2 steps one way, 2 steps the other. She slaps her trunk against the rusty metal boards. She grumbles. Stella, I ask, did you hear the baby? Stella mutters something under her breath, a word she uses when she's angry. Stella mutters, relax, Stella, I say. It'll be okay. Ivan, Stella says, it will never, ever be okay, and I know enough to stop talking. Why do you think Stella's worried about the baby elephant coming? It's almost like she knows something that maybe the others don't. Maybe. Stella helps. The men are still yelling. Some of the yelling is at each other, but most of it is at Ruby. We hear scrambling, pounding, shifting. The side of the truck shudders. I'm starting to like this elephant, Bob whispers. I'm getting the big one, Mac says. Maybe she can coax the stupid brat out of the truck. Mac opens Stella's door. Come on, girl, he urges. He unties the rope attached to the floor bolt. Stella pushes past Mac, nearly knocking him over. She rushes as best she can, limping heavily towards the open back of the truck. She catches her swollen foot on the edge of the ramp, and she winces. Blood trickles down. Stella's hurt. Halfway up the ramp, she pauses. The noise in the truck stops. Ruby falls silent. Slowly, Stella makes her way up the rest of the ramp. It groans under her weight, and I can tell how much she's hurting by how awkward she's moving. At the top of the incline, she stops. She pokes her trunk into the emptiness. We wait. The tiny gray trunk appears again. Shyly, it reaches out, tasting the air. Stella curls her own trunk around the baby's. They make soft, rumbling sounds. We wait some more. A hush falls over the entire big top wall. Thud, thud, step, step, pause, step, step, pause. And there she is, so small she can fit underneath Stella with room to spare. Her skin sags, and she sways unsteadily as she makes her way down the ramp. Not the greatest specimen, Mac says, but I got her cheap from this bankrupt circus that went out west. They had her shipped over from Africa. Only had her a month before they went bust. He gestures towards Ruby. Thing is, people love babies. Baby elephants, baby gorillas. Heck, give me a baby alligator and I could make a killing. Stella ushers Ruby towards her domain. Mac and the two men follow. At Stella's door, Ruby hesitates. Mac gives Ruby a shove, but she doesn't budge. Doggone it, get a clue, Ruby, he mutters, but Ruby isn't moving, and neither is Stella. Mac grabs a broom. He raises it. Instantly, Stella steps in front of Ruby to shield her. Stella's going to protect Ruby. Get in the cage, both of you, Mac shouts. Stella stares at Mac, considering. Gently, but firmly, using her trunk, she nudges Ruby into her domain. Only then does Stella enter. Mac slams the door shut with a clang. I see two trunks entwined. I hear Stella whispering. Poor kid, says Bob. Welcome to the Exit 8 Big Top Mall and Video Arcade, home of the one and only Ivan. Well, maybe Stella's kind of worried about Ruby. And now I think I know the reason why. She knows it's not an easy life living there, and she's kind of worried about this baby elephant because Stella cares about her. Old news. When Julia comes, she sits by Stella's domain and watches the new baby. She barely talks to me. Stella doesn't talk to me either. She's too busy nuzzling Ruby. She's cute, little Ruby, with her ears flapping like palm leaves. But I'm handsome and strong. Bob tries to circle around my belly before settling down in just the right spot. Give it up, Ivan, he says. You're old news. Julia gets out a piece of paper and a pencil. I can see that she is drawing Ruby. I move to the corner of my domain to pout. That's a pout. You make a sad face. Bob grumbles. He doesn't like it when I disrupt his naps. Homework, Julia's father scolds. Julia sighs and puts her drawing aside. I grunt, and Julia glances in my direction. Poor old Ivan, she says. I've been ignoring you, haven't I? I grunt again, a dignified, indifferent grunt. Julia thinks for a moment, then smiles. She walks over to my domain, to the spot in the corner where the glass is broken. She slides the paper through it. She rolls a pencil across my cement floor. You can draw the baby elephant too, Julia says. I bite the pencil in half with my magnificent teeth, and then I eat some paper. It doesn't sound like Ivan's enjoying this, does he? He doesn't like being old news. He likes being Julia's only friend, huh? But Julia wanted to see the baby, but Julia didn't ignore Ivan. Ivan's just he's just kind of upset. It makes him sad. Tricks. Even after Julia and her father leave, I try to keep sulking. But it's no use. Gorillas are not, by nature, pouters. Stella, I call. It's a full moon. Did you see? Sometimes, when we are lucky, we catch a glimpse of the moon through the skylight in the food court. I did, Stella says. She's whispering, and I realize that Ruby must be asleep. Is Ruby all right? I ask. She's too thin, Ivan, Stella says. Poor baby. She was in that truck for days. Mac bought her from a circus the same way he bought me, but she hadn't been there long. She was born in the wild, like us. Will she be okay? I ask. Stella doesn't answer my question. The circus trainers chained her to the floor, Ivan, all 4 feet, 23 hours a day. I puzzle over why this would be a good idea. I always try to give humans the benefit of the doubt. Why would they do that? I finally ask. To break her spirit, Stella says, so she could learn to balance on a pedestal, so she could stand on her hind legs, so a dog could jump on her back while she walked in mindless circles. I hear her tired voice, and I think of all the tricks Stella has learned. Introductions. When I awake the next morning, I see a little trunk poking out between the boards of Stella's domain. Hello, says a small, clear voice. I'm Ruby. And she waves her trunk. You know what her trunk is? Her trunk is just her nose. You know how elephants have long noses? That's their trunk. It's not like the trunk of a car. It's a different kind of trunk. Hello, I say. I'm Ivan. Are you a monkey? Ruby asks. Certainly not. Bob's ears perk up, although his eyes stay closed. He's a gorilla, he says, and I am a dog of uncertain heritage. Why did the dog climb on your tummy? Ruby asks. Because it's there, Bob murmurs. Is Stella awake? I ask. Aunt Stella's asleep, Ruby says. Her foot is hurting, I think. Ruby turns her head. Her eyes are like Stella's, black and long lashed bottomless lakes fringed by tall grass. When is breakfast? She asks. Soon, I say. When the mall opens, the workers come. Where? Ruby twists her head in the other direction. Where are the other elephants? It's just you and Stella, I say, and for some reason, I feel we have let her down. Are there more of you? Not, I say, at the moment. Ruby picks up a piece of hay and considers it. Do you have a mom and a dad? Well, I used to. Everyone has parents, Bob explains. It's unavoidable. Before the circus, I used to live with my mom and aunts and my sisters and my cousins, Ruby says. She drops the hay, picks it up, twirls it. But they're dead. I don't know what to say. I am not really enjoying this conversation, but I can see that Ruby isn't done talking. To be polite, I say, I'm sorry to hear that, Ruby. Humans killed them, she says. Who else? Bob asks, and we all fall silent. Well, now we know why Ruby's scared, huh? Because her family was killed in the wild, and they must have taken Stella. Stella and Ruby. All morning, Stella strokes Ruby, pats her, smells her. They flap their ears. They rumble and roar. They sway as if they're dancing. Ruby clings to Stella's tail. She slips under Stella's belly. Sometimes they just lean into each other, their trunks twirled together like jungle vines. Stella looks so happy. It's more fun to watch than any nature show I've ever seen on TV. Well, that's sweet. Home of the one and only Ivan. George and Mac are out by the highway. I can see them through one of my windows. They are next to each other on tall wooden ladders, leaning against the billboard that tells the cars to stop and visit the one and only Ivan, mighty Silverback. George has a bucket and a long-handled broom. Mac has pieces of paper. He slaps one against the billboard. George dips the broom into the bucket. He wets the paper with liquid from the bucket, and somehow the paper stays in place. They put up many pieces before they're done. When they climb down from the ladders, I see that they've added a picture of a little elephant on the billboard. The elephant has a lopsided smile. She's wearing a red hat, and her tail curls like a pig's. She doesn't really look like Ruby. She doesn't even really look like an elephant. I've only known Ruby one day, and I could have drawn her better. He probably could have. I bet you Julia would have known what he was drawing too. So that's the end of this is section 5 of the one and only Ivan. And come back and we're going to have section 6 next, okay? Bye guys.